up, everybody, and welcome to Lacrosse Now. That is Travis Eldridge. I am Tom Eschen. This is our 2022 Women's World Lacrosse Championship Spectacular. We are going to get you ready for what's going to be
spectacular, huh?
Yes.
I didn't know that's what we were calling it.
It is.
All right,
that's what
let's go.
it is. We just named it now. Get everybody and the whole graphics team, the promotions team on it, because it's going to be spectacular. We're very excited for it. We've got some great guests coming on today, Travis. Who we got?
All right, we've got Kylie Ohlmiller, Dempsey, Arsenault, McCool, all from Team USA getting ready for the Women's World Championships. Two of them, Dempsey and Kylie, playing in their first World Championship event with Team USA. McCool, of course, is part of the 2017 team. So a little differing in terms of their experiences with Team USA in the past. We'll also talk some PLL at the end.
Yeah.
So lots of Women's World Cup to get you ready for this week as the tournament kicks off on Wednesday night. And then we'll also talk PLL from this past weekend in Baltimore at the end of the show.
Yeah, so what's going to make this so spectacular is that we're going to go, of course, through Pool A a bit, but we'll also talk about things that sort of expound upon the tournament as a whole. Who, maybe in some of these other pools, some of these other countries who you should be watching for as these days and these games goes on, because there's a lot of different little nuances and nuggets, I think, that are really important for people to watch and are exciting and entertaining in that, too, because there's going to be a lot of close games throughout the tournament. You know, we know Team USA, the heavy favorite going in, and that's what's been evidenced in the past. But outside of that, there's a lot to watch for, too.
So let's start by talking about Team USA.
Let's begin at the beginning here.
I mean, they're the defending gold medal winners. However, they've never won a gold medal in the Women's World Championship on home soil. There have been two events in the United States in the Women's Senior World Championship history, 1986 and 2005, both of which were won by Australia. So the question is, and while, look, U.S. has been dominant since 2005. They've won every World Championship event since. But there's a little bit of a chip on the shoulder, and there's some pressure on Team USA to make sure they get the job done this time around.
Yeah, and they want to put on a show, too. I think that's the whole, that's another piece of the pie, but I think that's a part of some of that pressure you said as well. They want to make sure that the people that come out like what they see, because they see this as a huge opportunity to grow the sport and the game itself. And like you said, I think it's really interesting because I remember talking to Jenny Levy about this back in the fall before the Fall Classic, and we talked about how long of a process this has been. I mean, you look back and 2017 is the last time we had these championships. 2017 was a long time ago.
Lots happened since then.
A lot has gone on since then in the lacrosse world, in the world, and individually and a bigger scale. No, I mean, and that to me is amazing that this roster is very different because it feels like we've got, you look at this Team USA roster and you recognize almost everybody, say, okay, yeah, they've been a Team USA player for a while, but not really. More so just through this cycle. The cycle's been so long that you're like, oh, yeah, this is the first for a lot of these athletes playing in these kind of a championship.
Yeah, I mean, you think back to when this process started 2018, 2019.
Yeah.
And you've got players who, like a Charlotte North, pretty sure Charlotte North may have still been a Duke when, like, the process started for this time around. And then, like, now, all of a sudden, she's one of the players on this attack unit. So I think it's been really interesting. And also remember, like, this week leading up, and they had the training week at Stony Brook as well, there hasn't been a lot of time in terms of getting together continuity-wise because they were supposed to have the event in January, and that got canceled due to some COVID concerns, and they were supposed to take on Team England, I believe, in that January event down in Florida. And so, like, them getting together and playing together will be important here in the next week, which I think will be something to watch with Canada right off the bat. A test, obviously, right off the bat on Wednesday night, and to see continuity-wise, like, how does it all work together? How does it flow?
Yeah, one more thing before we get into that. In 27, because it also helps with the difference. 2017, names like Sarah Bullard led the way. You had Laura Zimmerman, Alex Oss, Katie Schwartzman, Katie Haas, of course, now. Michelle Tumalo was on that team, Kelly Berger. So just so you know, some of the names that aren't there anymore that led the team, they were the biggest proponent, they were the biggest factors, the stars that shine the most. So like you said, in terms of getting that continuity, especially even after not playing together for what it was, all those months over the course of COVID.
Just
I mean,
halted
so you had a lot of time, and I think we talked about this with Jenny Levy, you had a lot of time, but not a lot of time all at the same time, which is a big, it is a challenge for not only Team USA, but a lot of these teams too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be very interested to see how this attack unit works together because a couple of things to keep in mind. The World Championship, the world rules are different.
Yeah.
Like if you think you're going to go out there and see this play out like a college lacrosse game in 2022, it's not going to happen. It's going to be a different feel than you might be used to if you just watch the Final Four here on the women's side in college lacrosse. So I'll be interested to see, like, how does it all work with Kayla Trainer up there and Kylie Ohlmiller and Charlotte North? Like, how do all those pieces fit together? And what roles do they kind of find throughout this lead-up process? And maybe how that evolves throughout the tournament, because they can all do so much. It's so interesting, and this happens in the men's game, too, when you get to the international side. Like, who fills what roles in each spot?
Yeah, you know, Kayla Trainer did lead the team. She was a holdover. She was on the 27 team. She led the tournament in points.
Yeah, she was unbelievable.
She had 24 goals, 19 assists. I wonder if those stats are going to be flipped a little bit more, because what we've seen from some of these competitions they've had, it feels like the coach in Kayla Trainer is really come out more than anything else. And yes, on the field, when she gets there, she will be ready to go. But it almost feels like the coach in her is going to come out more, and she will look for opportunities for others, I feel like, more than ever. You know, unless she's on the doorstep and faking it and making like she does better than anybody else in the crease, I think that she will look to distribute. And like you said, that could open up opportunities for others. And I think a name to watch. And you wonder, because some of these athletes, you know, you think, okay, what kind of shape are they in? You know, how have they been practicing? How much lacrosse have they played? You go back to the last Athletes Unlimited season. And, you know, Taylor Cummings, a known quantity, already there. Sam Apuzzo, I think, a name to watch. And I think if you're going to make a pick to have a player that's going to lead the way, I think Sam Apuzzo could be the one in this tournament.
That's an interesting one to point out. And I didn't even think of her coming to mind. It's, like, easy for her to get lost because, like, think about how many great players have come from Boston College. She won a Tewaaraton Award.
Yeah.
Not too long ago, just a couple of years ago. But Dempsey Arsenault, I think, kind of like stole the show right after, because she had that great pro season right after college and kind of stole the show in terms of the women's lacrosse game. And then obviously Charlotte North came along. But Sam Apuzzo is unbelievable. She had a great highlight clip that hit social media from their training weekend this past week as they get ready to lead up. She's incredibly skilled and great balance, too. She can feed and score. Good versatility.
And that's the thing, because like you said, she's gone a little bit under the radar, which is kind of weird to say, but there's so many stars, Charlotte North and Kayla Trainer, Kylie Ohlmiller, Marie McCool, which for me is going to make a big difference to have that next person that can, while the limelight's on everybody else and all the defense are focused on those others, she's the one who's going to really be the beneficiary of that. I think that's going to make a big factor, that she's going to be a big factor in that.
100%. The other thing to keep an eye on is the draw circle. And if Taylor Cummings and company up there dominate the draw circle like they're expected to, that changes everything for Team USA. That's the way they dominate teams, because there's no shot clock in the international game. So if you keep winning the draw and you keep possession, like, it's lights out, because with that offense, the amount of time they're going to, if they have the ball that much, like, it's going to be over and over and over again. Like, you can't get that many stops, no matter who you are defensively anywhere else. So the draw circle will be really key throughout this tournament.
And there were some names that I wrote down that kind of went along with that same concept, those players in the middle of the field. And Ali Mastriani, one of those. And you have Lizzie Colson, too. Some of these younger players just out of college, Ali Kennedy. And I think that, like you said, alongside Dempsey, some of these really young midfielders that are going to be on the circle and be a part of that, I can't wait to see them play, because they're as athletic as we've seen here in the women's game in a long time. And I think that will be a huge factor in the middle of the field when it comes to Team USA getting the ball back again and again.
The athletes that Team USA is rolling out in that midfield unit, I mean, and like the speed between Ali Kennedy and Marie McCool and Dempsey Arsenault, like, no offense to some of the teams we've seen in the past, but I don't know if there's any Team USA's ever had a faster team than they're rolling out there this year.
Yeah, I think I agree with you for sure. And they have the youth, but also some of that experience on top of it, too.
For sure.
Yeah. So my question was, if you had
what's
to choose,
your question?
Who would you face guard on Team USA? I was like, because they did that. Canada did that against Trainer in the final back in 2017. Obviously, the Team USA won, I think, 10-5, but it almost worked a bit for Canada in that aspect. It was pretty close in the second half compared to the first. I think it was 5-1 after one, and then second, things tightened up a little bit. It was pretty even there.
I feel like this makes for a terrible segment, but I feel like you have to wait and see how this team plays first. Like, I'd almost want to feel it out for a quarter, figure out who Team USA feels like is the quarterback early on, and then take that player away and make them change their strategy. Not saying that they can't, but I think even with great teams, sometimes like that adjustment period takes enough time that it allows an opponent to get an edge. You know, like because it can take a couple of possessions to adjust to, all right, well, Kayla was our quarterback here, and that was our game plan moving in. Now we're going to move Sam Apuzzo back there and kind of run things. Well, sometimes it takes a couple of possessions, and a couple of empty possessions can be like an entire quarter in the international game.
And I think, and I wanted to ask that because my next thought is Charlotte North. Because because we've seen Charlotte North play in this format very little bit, not very often. And for her, this is very different than college, where she was the coach on the field. You watch Charlotte North play, she's telling everybody what to do, where to go, how to do and all of that. But now she's surrounded by people like that as well. And I'm not saying that she would ever be overshadowed or struggle in that aspect. I'm just wondering, will it be an offense that Charlotte North is guiding or that Charlotte North is dominating, or like we've seen in a couple of these formats where she is having like a couple per game of those pop plays? You know what I mean? Those crazy plays where she gets the ball in her stick or she takes it away from somebody, goes the other way and scores. I wonder what it will look like in terms of what her output will be in production level with this amount of talent around her. I look at her game and I feel like she's like the Ryan Brown from the men's national team when they won it in 2018. She can, to me, can kind of fit that role in terms of like it keeps the defense honest. Yeah. Because she can shoot from anywhere. And so like there's nobody that can stretch the field like Charlotte North can. And so I feel like if there's a play, I mean, I think she may be able to, she's going to do a lot of other things too, and she can do them very well. But if there's a role for her to kind of fit in right away to make it feel comfortable, I feel like that's it for her, because it's something that I don't think most other players on the field can do. Yeah, I think that's one way, and then the other, if maybe there's a time where she is struggling to find that role, is maybe Jenny Levy puts her on the draw and takes maybe Taylor Cummings out of there for a couple times around it and puts Charlotte North in the draw and gets her involved that way to get her back in a place that she's really comfortable in, as we know, and gets her involved that way too. I mean, think about how many of these players that, like, whether even on the attack spots, that like were all American players at the draw. Yeah. Like, Kayla Trainer turned in her senior year at Syracuse, just turned into be like one of the best draw takers in the entire country. Sam Apuzzo did it. Sam Apuzzo did it too. Mastriani, of course, she was a Tewaaraton finalist for that. It's crazy to go up and down this list and see the amount of options there are there. And I think that's the toughest part for Jenny Levy. It's trying to find opportunities for these players as the tournament goes on, so that way when the lights are the brightest, who is out there when they need to be. Like, there's no question the talent's there. And this is the hardest thing for any coach that's dealing with, like, first of all, picking a Team USA, and then second of all, coaching it, is how do you push the right buttons with that talent to make sure it all works? Like, sometimes the talent is just overpowering, but other times, like if you're in a tight game and it's interesting and like it's close, trying to push the right buttons and figuring out how do we handle different situations and who do we put in different times and who's going to thrive, like it's hard. That's the difference between Team USA and a lot of other teams here, because you have the other teams that have their player, right? They've got their athlete or the person they're going to go through, whether that's a Megan Whittle with England or an Aurora Accordingly with Canada, or Dana Dobie obviously as well involved in there too. And I think that's the difference between Team USA and a lot of these other teams. It's like they sort of have to figure it out on the go, where everybody else has, okay, this is who we're going through. Now we just have to stop other teams. Yeah, and you know what? Like some of the other teams, it's almost like it's a more normal team than with Team USA, which like they could probably put 3 or 4 players at the lead attack spot, and it doesn't matter. Right. You know, it's just you got to pick the right spots. You got to pick the right combinations as well of players to be able to do so. There might be differences there too. So I think it's going to be, obviously, we know Team USA is the most talented team, probably the most dominant, but some of those little nuances is how will some of these individuals do and what will they do as the tournament goes on, and who will be the stars that end up standing out, because you never really know when it begins. And you know what? Don't underestimate what this pressure is. Like, everybody's saying the right thing going in, and it's about more than a medal, and they want to put on a show and all that. But if things get tight, like, and I'm not saying they will, but if things get tight in one of these games, there is real pressure on Team USA toward the end. Like, there's real pressure. You see, it's all with U.S. and Canada on the men's side.
like if it's close, at some point there could be real pressure. I don't know if it's going to be close, but if it is.
Well, we'll talk about their pool here in a little bit and say who could put the pressure on them. How about that?
Yeah. But speaking of some of these players on Team USA, had a chance to catch up with Kylie Ohlmiller leading into her first World Championship event. Listen to that. So we continue to look ahead to these World Championships, and we have Team USA's Kylie Ohlmiller joining us now. Kylie, how does it feel to be so close now? After you thought that it might be a year ago, but now it's here. Like we're a week away.
It's pretty surreal. I think all of us, we keep talking like, oh my goodness, I can't believe it's here so fast, but which is kind of ironic for all of us to say, like you said, because it should have been last year. So yeah, I think it's just, it came up really fast, and I think we're all really excited and ready. I know I am. And I'm just pumped to get down to Maryland.
What are your expectations for what it's going to be like to put on that jersey and stand out there for the national anthem before that game versus Canada? Like, what do you think you're going to feel like?
I've felt it a bunch before, and I'm very grateful that I have in all of these training weekends, but nothing that's been technically official. So I've never played in a World Championships before, and I'm just so grateful for the opportunity to do it. So I think I'm just going to be thinking about all of that and thinking about the fact that I'll have my 17 teammates next to me, and we'll be playing for our country, for the country that we're representing across our chest in our country, and hopefully in front of a bunch of fans that are looking to do exactly the same one day in their careers too.
You mentioned doing it here on home soil. Team USA's never won a gold medal on home soil. Australia's won the two previous World Championships that have been here. What kind of pressure is there for this team to make sure that you guys get the job done and bring home gold?
Yeah, I think one of our main things is just to try to eliminate as many distractions as we can, take in the moment, and be able to do it for the teams that came before us and the teams that'll come after us, and most importantly, just be able to do it for each other. So I think we're really focused heading into next week, and we're just excited to get after it.
You guys had a training weekend back here in June at your alma mater at Stony Brook. How surreal was it for you, like thinking back to where it's kind of where your career took off in terms of you kind of making your own legacy at Stony Brook, and then you're back there wearing red, white, and blue and training for a World Championship?
Yeah, that was one of those moments. We talked about the national anthem before, and that was one of probably the most special moments of my life. I think just being on that field and being on Long Island in general. I remember even driving to training camp, which was a 20-minute drive for me at this point. But I was driving past fields that I had grown up playing on. And then I got to the end destination was Laval Stadium at Stony Brook, which, I played some of my favorite games at, with some of my favorite people. And, it was just a really nostalgic week. And then being able to do it at the top of the game, right? Being able to play for the U.S. national team. I think it was a really full circle moment, and it's still something I'm still trying to reflect on, because it really was such a full-hearted moment. So hoping to just bring a lot of that gratitude into the World Championships, even though they might not be at Stony Brook.
Yeah, right. No, and I think it's cool to be able to realize that in the moment, because I think sometimes it's after the fact that you go, oh, wow, that was really cool. But I think it's cool, especially like you realizing you're going by fields you've grown up playing at. Sometimes it just hits you. And when you realize that in the moment, I think it's really special.
Absolutely. I mean, it was a really true full circle moment. And then being able to look in the stands, and the stands were packed out with just Long Island lacrosse girls, just happy to be there, pumped to meet their idols. And that's something that I was surrounded by at Stony Brook, and just to be able to do it amongst the best in the world as well at that special place. It was just a night I'll never forget.
So you've played on a bunch of different teams at all different levels, professionally, internationally. How does this group that you guys are going to battle with here down in Towson, Maryland, how does this group feel?
Feels awesome. I mean, it feels right. And I think, this past training weekend in June, we really started to kind of just get the kinks out, get the idea that we were in a tryout system out of our head, because up until then it was a tryout. So we were starting to have some fun together out on the field, really starting to flow. And I think it's going to be something that carries over into the World Championship. And I'm just really excited to get to play with the group of players and women that this team has, because everybody's just so invested in one another, making sure each other are uplifted and ready to go. We're going to be selling hard. I know that. We're just excited to have the chance to do it after a long 5 years of waiting rather than 4. And, I think it's just, we really understand the impact that playing at home is going to have on our goals as a team, which is just to inspire that next generation.
You hit on it there, and Jenny Levy's kind of mantra for you guys is that it's more than just a medal. Obviously, your goal is to win gold, but you also want to try to impact the sport on an even larger scale throughout this experience. What does that mean to you, and what has been spoken about around the team about how you guys can try to kind of leave a lasting impact from this run?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have the stage is set for us, right? And I think that is something that we've always been asking for over the last couple of years, is just a stage to be able to be on these channels and on these networks, for these games to be broadcasted, for people all over the world to be able to watch the best in the world compete in women's lacrosse. So then again, to just be on the U.S. team, be able to play in the United States, again, it's just the stage is perfectly set for us. And that's something that we know, and we're definitely going to take advantage of, and we're really looking forward to. I just think it's a stage that we are really excited to be able to meet and connect with young girls, and be able to showcase a brand and style of lacrosse that is really, really exciting and really passionate, and with a group of women that really, really cares about where the sport goes in the future.
So you're dating a Canadian, right? In Rylan Reese?
Unfortunately, yes.
So what's going on in the lead up to game 1?
Oh, I love that this is brought up. You know what the actual deal is? We have a deal, and I'm so glad that my Worlds is coming up before his, because he plays on the Canadian national team as well. But he's got to wear my jersey in the stands next week, and then I will have to probably return the favor next year at his Worlds. But that's too far away. I'm just looking forward to seeing him in a USA jersey next week.
Yeah, that's perfect. You get him in the red, white, and blue, and he's got to, embrace dating an American. Here we go. Welcome to the club. I will ask one more question about a game you guys have coming up, because I think it is, as soon as the schedule came out, I thought it was so freaking cool. USA versus England on July 4th. How awesome is that going to be?
Oh, it's going to be incredible. I mean, 4th of July is just such an American holiday when you think about it. When I think about 4th of July, I just see American flags everywhere. So to be able to celebrate it this year in 2022 on the lacrosse field, competing against another incredible team, I think it's just going to be a packed out stadium. I think it's going to be an incredible atmosphere. And no matter the history, behind it, I really think it's just going to be an exciting day for women's lacrosse.
Yeah, I think you'll have the whole country on your side for that one. If there wasn't a question in any other games, you got everybody on board for USA versus England on July 4th.
I hope so. I mean, happy 4th of July, right?
Absolutely. Well, Kylie, we can't wait to see you guys experience all this on the field in Towson. Safe travels and good luck as you go on this run, okay?
Thank you so much.
So we'll be very interested to see on Wednesday night what Rylan Reese is wearing in the stands.
Yeah.
To see,
sure.
Team USA for the Canadian. What, you're not intrigued by this at all?
I think it's great. Yeah, I think it's very cool.
If you were dating a Canadian, would you wear Canadian garb?
That's quite the
I'm just saying. I'm asking.
That's
putting you on the spot.
That is a good question. I think that I would. I mean, is it country before your relationship, or what have you? But maybe it might depend on how long I'd known the person or been with the person.
Wow.
I think there'd be
Tom's
a line
big
there.
country kind of guy.
There'd be a line there,
Big country guy over here.
I mean, I'm not just gonna go out there and root against my country.
You're right. I know.
For someone that I'm not married to.
Okay.
You know?
So things must be pretty serious for Rylan Reese and Kylie Ohlmiller.
We're not going to speculate on any of that.
Anyway, keep an eye on the stands for Rylan Reese, the Canadian. See if he's wearing red, white, and blue.
To each his and her own, Travis.
Okay. Speaking of Canada,
wow, that really went a direction, boy.
Speaking of Canada, why don't we dive into the rest of Group A?
Yeah.
Or Pool A.
Pool A: Australia, Canada, England, Scotland, and the United States. So you want to talk about Canada to start? Do you think,
sure.
Is Canada the biggest threat to the U.S. at this point?
If recent history is any indication, it's yes.
Yes. Yep.
Remember, go back to 2019. Canada's women's program took a big step when they 2015. 2015, Canada's women's program took a big step when their U19 women's team beat Team USA for the first time ever and won the U19 gold medals. The only women's gold medal that Canada has won at a world championship level. So that was a big step. You have some players that are still from that 2015 team that are now on the senior national team. We mentioned Dana Dobie, a 3-time all-world selection. She has just continuously done it on this stage, but I think the bigger thing for me is players like Aurora Cordingley.
Yeah.
We saw Aurora Cordingley play at an elite level here in college. There's a reason she was a Tour-Time finalist this year, 118 points for Maryland, 4th in the country. She, along with players like Dana Dobie, Allie Jimerson from UAlbany and Syracuse, they've got some pieces that, at the top end, that can compete with the top players that the United States have.
I think about Cordingley, and it's really interesting because we had the games in the Fall Classic when Canada was playing, of course, and I did those games, and Cordingley wasn't what she was at Maryland in those, because a different group of people, kind of a different feel, what her role would be. So the best possible thing for Team Canada was for her to transfer from Johns Hopkins to Maryland to go into a different atmosphere, a different environment, and figure it out. So I think all that will help her so much over the course of this tournament, and because she was able to blossom so much in Maryland in that system, and they're just going to do on Team Canada what they sort of did. I'd imagine they're going to shape things a little bit similarly the way they did with Maryland too. So I think that is going to make a really big difference for Aurora Cordingley after seeing that progression, from before the season began when she was playing for Team Canada in that Fall Classic to now when she had that season under her belt with a new atmosphere, new coach. Completely different thing, which I think can only help somebody.
Yeah, don't underestimate what that confidence does for her.
Yes.
I think she built up so much confidence. First of all, not a lot of people were talking about Maryland as a national championship contender going into the year. They certainly proved everybody wrong there. And not a lot of people were talking about Aurora Cordingley other than just being a good transfer. They're like, oh, Maryland added Aurora Cordingley. That's a nice boost and, all Big Ten type of player. They didn't see Tour-Time finalist. And so that's a big jump to make as a player in your last year in college. I think that confidence is going to do wonders for her and for Canada.
Yeah, absolutely. And they've got some other players that help give them depth as well. Maddie Baxter from Syracuse. She had some flashes over the years, and Syracuse, as we know, is so deep. I don't know if she's gotten as many opportunities as maybe she should have over the last couple seasons, but 19 goals, 4 assists in her first couple seasons, a Hill Academy product there too. So someone else that's competed in the ACC at the highest level that can get the job done. And then I point to Cameron Houssaw, the goalie from Stony Brook. And this year, she was beat out by Charlie Campbell for the most part. Charlie Campbell, the transfer from Virginia, but talking to Joe Spallina over the course of the season, it was almost like for him, he's like, we could go with either one. You know what I mean? And they ended up just going with Campbell because that's what they were riding with, and she was obviously so great for them all year long. But Houssaw could have been the goalie for Stony Brook all season, and a very talented one at that, which really, I think, when you look across the teams in this tournament, she's one of the better goalies out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe one of the best.
And don't forget about Erica Evans, who was an all-world performer back in 2017, was one of the top players for Canada when she was still in college at Canisius, transferred to Maryland, had that year where she was just mixed in with a ton of other talent. You can't forget about her as being a really dynamic player.
One other player, Brooklyn Walker-Welch from North Carolina, also on this Canadian team. Got, obviously, with North Carolina, all that talent. If she was on any other team in the country, probably would have been talking about her a lot more, but someone else on that back end playing alongside someone like Emma Trenchard, Emily Knowles, Taylor Moreno, that's another really good asset to have against an offense like Team USA.
Yeah, for sure. So Canada's finished second each of the last 2 World Championships. They will be a team to watch. I think the sneaky, very, very intriguing team is England.
Okay.
Because with England, we saw them win bronze at home back in 2017. It was that dramatic goal they scored. The rain is coming down against Australia.
Yeah.
They were all fired up, as they should. First ever bronze medal finish for Team England on the women's side. But you go up and down some of the talent they have coming back or additions. This team is really good. Olivia Hoppe is back, who was England's leading scorer back in 2017 at the World Championships. Was Princeton's all-time leading scorer until Kylie Sears went and broke all those records. I'm sure Olivia is real pumped up about that. Laura Merrifield is back. Megan Whittle, former Maryland Terp, another former Maryland Terp, is back. She was the one who scored the game winner back in 2017 in that bronze medal game. And then I think maybe more importantly than the offense, defensively, Emily Knowles from North Carolina, who certainly knows this parts of this attack unit pretty well from her career in the ACC, and Brittany Reed, who was a goalie at Oregon and Louisville, and who had a really good athletes and limited summer this past year. So defensively, with Knowles and Reed in goal, those are big pieces against the firing squad you're going to get against Team USA.
Yeah, and you were, I believe, out west for the spring premiere. Right before it was the 2019, I think it was, right? It wasn't.
Yes.
It wasn't 2020.
January of 2019.
Yeah, and they really played well, I thought.
They did.
Megan Whittle was a big part of their offense, and they competed, I thought, really well out there. And don't forget, they did still come over this January. Some of them came, some of them stayed or traveled to Florida, while that was all going on, too. And they got together, and I feel like the fact that they still did it, even though Team USA pulled out, showed you that they're taking this really seriously, Team England. And not that somebody isn't, but that means that they were ready to invest their time and effort to be able to say, okay, we've got some good continuity here. And I think, like you said, all these players back for their team gives them that.
Well, and there's momentum building off of that. Like, they were at home. It was broadcast on national television in England, that bronze medal game. Like, there was momentum. And don't forget, like, we talk about the players who played collegiate lacrosse here, but they've got also a system of club programs that these players have been playing in. They really have embraced sixes as well across the pond.
Yeah.
And so they have been finding other ways to stay involved with the sport, like in terms of, and then you add in some of the college players with collegiate experience. So I like them as a possible dark horse to find their way maybe to the gold medal game, depending on how things work out and where they're matched up.
Yeah.
But I would not be surprised if they give Canada a run for their money in terms of being maybe the second best team in the pool.
Yeah, I think that's where things get interesting, like you said, and how some of these teams match up, especially in pool play, and then how that impacts things moving forward after you get through pool play, because then you have Australia, who will throw in the mix as well. A team that, as we talked about and Travis mentioned, they're the team that's won on U.S. soil the last 2 times around. And, they come out with a Hannah Nielsen who knows everybody so well out there, right?
Yeah.
She knows the tournament. She knows the players. She's coached them. She's coached against them. That knowledge there's a lot of it there, which really helps. And I like how Australia has Hannah Nielsen, and then a Georgia Latch from Loyola. And if you didn't watch Loyola play this year, I mean, they had one of the best offenses in the nation all season long. And Georgia Latch was one of their athletes. And Loyola, to me, had one of the more athletic teams in the country because of that. Latch, as a freshman, 38 goals, 38 assists. So you have that nice little mix of veteran with Hannah Nielsen, and then that youth as well that we talked about as well.
And don't forget, first of all, they're led by the legend Jen Adams.
Yes, that helps.
That's
when they won the championship.
It's like on the men's side, John Grant Jr. leading Team Canada. You've got one of the all-time greats leading the program, and she's obviously a tremendous coach at Loyola. And so you can never pick against her because of her knowledge of the game. She, of course, led that 2005 team. Nielsen was on that 2005 team. She has won gold in this event.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
And she's played. It's not like she hasn't been playing. We've seen her play in the WPLL. We've seen her play professionally and in all these different events over the years. So it's not like she's been off the charts, not just hanging out in the background waiting to go out there again. She's in playing shape.
And you know what the thing to remember with Australia is, and I've mentioned in talking to different college coaches about some different Australian players, I was talking about this with the St. Joe's program, because Bonnie Yu was on this team who played for the St. Joe's Hawks, who surprised everybody and won the A10 women's title this year. But in Australia, when players are coming up, they're playing with club programs. So they're playing against, even at younger ages when they're teenagers, grown women. And so that experience is something that maybe even if you haven't come over and played in college, like you're used to this level of play, competing against, you know, not just teenagers if you're 16, 17 years old, but you're playing against players in their 20s and 30s who have a little bit more knowledge of the game and a great feel for it. So you have players up and down this roster, yes, some that have collegiate experience, but others that were just really good club players in Australia who are a part of this roster.
Yeah, and it's amazing as we talk about this to think about the people playing lacrosse across the world and just
really
like
cool.
A bunch of club teams playing in Australia coming to the U.S. just to see this tournament. Obviously, a great glimpse to see what lacrosse looks like there compared to some other places around the world. I think that's really neat. That's what it's all about, right? That's how you grow the game at the end of the day. That's how you do it the best.
I mean, it's one of the cool things about this tournament is seeing all the different places. And obviously, like the players that we're mentioning here are college players that you probably have heard of, or at least you know their school. But the cool thing throughout this tournament is the stars that emerge of players that didn't play college lacrosse or haven't yet. And now, like, we've seen it in, especially with some of these U19 events, or even here in the Women's World Cup stage, World Championship stage at the senior level. Like, college coaches take note of some of these 18, 19 years old that might be a nice addition to pick off and bring into your collegiate program.
If not initially, then the transfer portal.
That's true.
That's the world we live in. One of those people, just touching on Scotland briefly.
Yeah.
Chloe Carruthers, one of the best names, I think, in all.
It's a good one.
Chloe Carruthers, captain of their U19 team as well. So Scotland's going to have some leadership there and some people that have been around their system. And, you know, obviously you don't have the bigger names that you might see with the Canadians or England or Australia, but they're in this pool too. So we'll see what they have to say about things. And you never really know. Like you said, if you have a plucky team that's ready to go knock somebody off, that can impact a lot of things in terms of the gold medal game and whatever moving forward.
Couple of days to remember in pool play. First, Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, United States and Canada kicks off the tournament. But July 4th, U.S. and England. It's just perfect.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back
one of the great rivalries.
Years.
One of the great rivalries in world history.
And if you don't know, probably watch the Hamilton. That would be a good way to start.
Take yourself into a history lesson for 1776.
That's probably a good way to do it. I don't think they have lacrosse in Hamilton, but maybe.
No, I don't think. No, but I mean, the Native Americans were playing lacrosse back then.
They were out. They were probably around playing some lacrosse there too.
So it's been around sport.
It has been.
One of the oldest sports.
It is the oldest sport, I think.
So who knows? Maybe we should have just settled this thing on the lacrosse field back in the day.
I wonder. Yeah, I put my money on the natives still then at that point.
Yeah, that's true. You're right.
I would still do that to this day too. Maybe I would today. Who knows?
We'll get to the Haudenosaunee women in a bit here. But first, why don't we hear from another one of our guests? Marie McCool, one of the players for Team USA who is back for a second time around here on the World Championship roster. Had a chance to catch up with her late last week. So as we continue to get ready for this Women's World Championship, we have Marie McCool from Team USA joining us now. Marie, things have changed a bit for you since in 2017 when you appeared with Team USA for the first time. How different is it, the feeling this time around?
Yeah, I mean, I will say the one thing that isn't different is just the feeling that I get every time I get to put on the USA jersey. I think it's always an honor to do that, and to be able to represent your country is something that definitely never gets old for me. There's also some familiar faces on the team that I played with in 2017, but there's also a lot of new faces. So it's super exciting to be with this group. And we've also been training together for the past 4 years or 5 years maybe, because obviously the World Cup got pushed due to COVID. And so I think it's just so exciting that it's finally here. We've worked so hard over the past 5 years. And I was just telling you, we're leaving Saturday. And it's so surreal and really exciting.
Yeah, you mentioned the process, and I had been with you in certain different weekends throughout, and it feels like this process has lasted forever. So, what's it like to see that, the finish line in terms of you guys actually competing is now in sight?
Yeah, I mean, it's so exciting. And I think we had a training week 2 weeks ago out in Stony Brook, and it was just awesome to see, look around and look at everyone's faces. And we always group together before every practice and put our arms around each other and just talk about the practice and just to look around and see everyone and, that this was the team. And this was the group of players that I was going to be able to, go on this experience with and journey with was just a really awesome feeling. And to see some of the younger players. I mean, I was the youngest on the team back in 2017, and now I'm considered a vet. So to see players that I played against in college, and maybe I didn't even get a chance to play against because they're that much younger than me, is just, it's so fun to be a part of that experience with them.
Yeah, you mentioned that you've now kind of played both sides of the coin, where you were the young up-and-comer before. Now you're kind of the veteran, the one of the players that's been there before and done that. But on the field, like, where's your game at? Compare your game to when you were in college to now where you are now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely a lot more confident, I think. I was very young, and honestly, at the World Cup, I was just so excited to be there and be surrounded by players that I looked up to. And I think what I really took away from that weekend was that she was a great learning experience for me. I was going into my senior year of college in North Carolina. I was going to be a captain that year. So I was really just looking at the ways that Cookie Carr and Sarah Bullard led our team. So I could take that back with me at UNC, and then also just like be in the moment and just soak it all in. Just the opportunity to be able to play for your country and be a part of the U.S. team was such an amazing experience. And now one of my goals and role as a veteran is to do that for the younger players, to be a leader, to, make this experience great for them. And hopefully I can help them learn as well.
With this group, because every year I feel like every go-around, it kind of feels similar. You have some of the up-and-comers, some of the rookies, and then you have a number of players who've maybe were on the last World Championship team or have been around for a little bit. How do you compare the two groups? Do they feel similar in terms of like the makeup? Does it feel different? Like, how do you compare it?
I mean, in my opinion, I think every team is different. So even if you have like 50% of a team from a previous year, like I just think every team has its own personality to it. So it definitely is different. We also have a new coaching staff. But again, like it's the same feeling, being able to play for your country. Like that is all the same to me and something that never gets old. But I think, this is a really special group of players, and I know that we're all super excited to be able to spend time with each other and bond over the next few weeks. And, with our ultimate goal of obviously bringing home gold. I think the last time the World Cup was played on U.S. soil, the U.S. team did not win gold. So that's really our main focus right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, the U.S., and I was astonished when I was looking back, U.S. has never won a Women's World Championship on home soil. It's happened twice, and both times it was Australia that won gold. What's the importance of making sure that you guys get the job done, knowing the eyes of the lacrosse world and then some will be on you over the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, it's so important. And we talked about it as a group. Last training weekend, we brought up how U.S. has never won on soil in Australia, those two games against Australia. And so I think the biggest thing is just staying focused and dialed in and making sure that we aren't getting distracted by anything in the outside, whether that's media, whether that's friends and family. Like obviously they're so important in our journey, but together as a group, we need to make sure that we're constantly focusing on what we need to do individually and as a team to bring home gold. Nothing's ever given to you. I think you can look on paper, the team that we have. There's a lot of Twerton finalists, Twerton winners, first team All-Americans throughout their collegiate career, but none of that matters, right? It's what this group of individuals can do together as a team, and that's really what we need to focus on.
I'm going to be honest, when I first saw the schedule, I think the coolest thing was that you guys are playing England on July 4th. Like, how excited, I mean, you're excited for the whole tournament, but how cool is that?
Yeah, I know. A lot of my friends and family are like, oh my gosh, that's so funny. You're playing England on July 4th. And I was just I saw Ricky Freed, who was the coach of the last World Cup team. I saw him 2 days ago, and he brought it up. He was like, wow, I can't imagine like that pregame speech. So it's definitely really exciting and a cool experience to be a part of. And I'm just really excited to look at the stands and see all the red, white, and blue. And that's another positive of this being on home soil. I think out in England, we had so many fans and it was a really cool experience. But I think, the fact that this is on U.S. soil, really excited to see the turnout at Towson, at Johnny U. So it'll be really fun to be a part of.
So Jenny Levy has put out a message to this team that it's more than just a medal, talking about what you guys hope to accomplish over the course of these next couple of weeks. And it's more, obviously, you guys want to bring home gold, but it's also about trying to expand the growth of the sport and interact with all the fans and continue to grow the game. What's the legacy that you hope that this team leaves once this tournament's over?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we talked about as a team. Obviously, our priority is to win a gold medal in a World Cup, right? And I think, but there's more to that, right? Like it's more than a medal. We want to make sure that we're inspiring this next generation that's going to be in our shoes one day. There's going to be thousands of girls out there looking up to us. And so we need to make sure that we're being the best role models for them and being an inspiration for them so they can continue to work hard and look up to us. And we want to be able to motivate them as well to do so. So I think that's really the legacy we want to leave. We want to be, obviously the group that won a gold medal, but more importantly, we want to be that group of role models and inspiration for the future generations of our sport.
Before we let you go, one thing about your college team, because I know you were part of the team a couple of years ago as a volunteer assistant there with Jenny Levy, and that didn't work out. But to see a lot of those same players come back and win a national championship this year and finish the undefeated season, what was that like?
Yeah, I mean, I was there, and I remember watching the Northwestern game, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I really hope that they can pull this out because I care so deeply about the coaching staff and the players, and I really wanted it for them, especially that fifth-year senior class. They were my freshmen. They were freshmen when I was a senior, and so I wanted nothing more for them than to be able to bring one home. And so to be there and to watch it, it definitely was emotional for me. It was a little bittersweet. Obviously, like you said, last year we weren't able to get it done, but it was awesome to see them do that. And Kylie Waters, who was a volunteer assistant this year, is someone who I am very close with. I have a great relationship with her. I played with her for 3 years in college, and obviously I've been playing with her on the U.S. women's national team. And she's so passionate about what she does and about the players, and just to see that for her as well. Emily Peros, Jenny Levy, and obviously Phil Barnes, it was something that was really special for me.
Well, you got your own championship to chase here in the next couple of weeks. Marie, we appreciate the time. Good luck with Team USA. Can't wait to watch you guys in action. So Marie, of course, has the experience of winning that 2017 World Championship. But we were talking about it. I mean, so much has changed since. She was going into her senior year at North Carolina.
Wow.
And 5 years later,
it's been a while.
Different spot in her career in terms of lacrosse, but back there and still as good as anybody.
Yeah, and an example too, she's been able to play professionally, since then and keep her game up, and I think that's really important for keeping these athletes, in their best shape. Not that they wouldn't try,
right?
But it's just different when you're out there playing and competing. And Athletes Unlimited, obviously last summer in their debut, and again this summer, has done a great job of that.
And the roles are so different for Marie because then I think she was the only collegiate player on the roster. Yeah. So you're the young buck, you're just there along for the ride. Yeah, tell me where to go, what to do. Now, a little bit more of a leader in this midfield unit.
Yeah, that's really cool, for sure. Kind of that changing the guard. We talk about it on the men's side so much, too, with how long ago the men's championships were, and a lot of us men that have retired. The women, it's very similar in that fact as well.
For sure.
Okay, let's move on. Beyond Pool A here. Let's look beyond there and see there's other countries, obviously, that have some talent, have some people that we are going to be watching, and a lot of these games are going to be competitive. We know that. So you give me a close game, I'm there to watch.
True.
The question is who we're going to be watching in some of those close games.
I'm going to kick it off with Puerto Rico.
All right.
This team is really young. This is the first ever Women's World Championship appearance at the senior level for Puerto Rico. Keep an eye on Delaney Rodriguez-Shaw. She played for Duquesne this past year, and I had a chance to do one of their games in the Atlantic 10 Women's Tournament, and she is incredible. She carried that team into the A10 Women's Tournament and very nearly carried them into the semifinals of the tournament. She is that good of a player, really dynamic. She was their leading scorer in the 2019 U19 World Championship. Puerto Rico, as a women's program there in the 2019 U19 team, went 8-0, but they weren't eligible for the title to move on into the pool play because of it was their first year competing. But so keep an eye on Delaney Rodriguez-Shaw. And I mentioned the youth. Almost the entire team is either players that have played in college already or are committed to play in college. So if you want to keep an eye on some players that may be either playing or will be playing for a program, keep an eye on Puerto Rico.
Okay, yeah, we'll take a look at them for sure. I mean, I'm really attracted to these teams that are competing for the first time because I think it's obviously an example of the growth where these are located. So you mentioned Puerto Rico as one of them. You have Argentina, Jamaica, Norway, and Uganda, the first from Africa to compete in this Women's World Championship too. So I think those are really interesting stories because it shows that World Lacrosse trying to grow the game in a lot of different places, and for them to be able to get a team together that's going to compete at this is so important. With some people that you might know from here or there, you look at the Jamaica team, Karen Healy-Silcott, the Howard women's head coach, was on the first ever Syracuse women's lacrosse team, the inaugural team as well. So it's interesting that you can go and see her play for Team Jamaica in this tournament, and someone that you might know and see. Go to Argentina. They have a head coach, Holly McGarvey-Riley. She played for the U.S. in the past for a couple gold medal runs there too. So I think that it's really interesting how, yes, you have some of these that have names you might know or names that you would recognize if someone told you about it. But then you got a team like Norway. A lot of the people on the Norway team are from the Oslo Lacrosse Club. So you have these lacrosse clubs that are within these countries that have grown up together and played together, and now they're going to compete internationally together for the first time on the stage. Really cool.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Argentina being led by Holly McGarvey-Riley. Not only played lacrosse at Princeton, but also played field hockey there. She's a terrific athlete throughout her career at Princeton for the Tigers.
Nice. That's really cool. Yeah. So I think it's interesting as the tournament, like you said, goes on. Some stars will emerge that we don't even know about just yet. And
it's true.
And some of these games that are going to be happening and maybe at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 5 o'clock. And that's another great thing about this is that, we've got the primetime game kind of at 8 o'clock every single night. That's how it works. But if you're just hanging out, 1 o'clock on an afternoon, you're at work, put this on, and you'll see some lacrosse. And I think that's a really neat concept as well.
And really talented players, all over the place. How about the Haudenosaunee?
Yeah.
It's a team that was unbeaten in group play back in 2017 before they finished 12th in the world when they played out through world play. They're led by Elizabeth Belleville, who's the Lemoyne head coach, and so she's leading this program. They got a lot of talent from all over. Jalen Jimerson from Syracuse, Jacqueline Lazure, who was part of the U19 team back in 2019 for them. She's from Virginia Tech. Maya Scanlon, who played at Jacksonville. Winter Jock, who's committed to Notre Dame. She's still in high school. One of those players that getting an experience here is just a teenager on the world stage again at the senior level, but a player that you may know and talk about for years to come in the college game.
And it's so important I think like you talked about some of the pressures that are in Team USA. I don't know if it's pressure, but there's more to this for the Haudenosaunee, I think, at this championship level because of what's the lacrosse world wants is the Olympics. And for the Haudenosaunee to be included in that, I think obviously it's integral to the game and the world and the sport of lacrosse. And it'll be such a big step, I think, for the world to take as a whole. But anytime you see them in this championship format showing just the amount of talent they have and the pride they bring and the fact that they're the reason this sport is here is so important. So that's a team, I think, that if you're looking to watch, that's a team to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. On top of the talent, there's all the history behind it as well.
Exactly.
A team that make sure you take time. If you're watching the World Championships, make sure you take time and at least spend a game watching them.
And every time they compete, it's like, okay, everybody in the Olympic world, this is why. Like, this is what we're all here for. And I think it's just another, like, bright light, like the alarms going off saying this has to happen in whatever way that can be.
How about Katrina Dowd? She's playing for Ireland this time around.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, all-world with Team USA back in 2013. And now, of course, she's on Michelle Tumalo's staff there at Army. But competing for Ireland, and another one of those players, I liken it to Dana Dobie. Like, the talent that Katrina Dowd still has, unbelievable. Like, you put a stick in her hand on any field, and she will do something you probably haven't seen before.
Yeah, some of those players just have it, right?
Yeah.
It never leaves. Like, I bet if Mikey Powell went out there tomorrow, he'd be great.
You
know?
go, wow.
People think of people that haven't played in a long time.
Right.
I think you're right. I think that's I didn't realize she was doing that.
Yeah.
And obviously, Ireland lacrosse, a big year for them. Of course, having the men's youth, the U22.
I think it is 21,
U21
21.
U21 championship.
I'm losing track.
For an Ireland in a country that obviously has a lot of pride and a lot of excitement going on right now, that's great. Another one I'm watching, Belmont Thierry. She's playing for the Czech Republic.
Yeah.
We had her, obviously saw her very close up playing for William and Mary at the CAA this last year. One of the best scorers in the conference over the course of her career at William and Mary. One of the best to ever do it there as well.
Yeah.
So she'll be suiting up for the Czech Republic before heading to Clemson, where she's going to play her grad year.
And that's a great addition for Clemson,
Yeah.
by the way. Their first year in program history coming up in 2023, and you add a scorer like Belmont Thierry. I mean, we saw what Pitt did.
That's what I was going to say, yeah.
You loaded up with a couple of transfers of players who have done it at the Division I level, and maybe you're looking for an opportunity in the ACC. They come over, and Pittsburgh was competitive in year one in the best conference in the country.
Yeah,
so,
they were fun.
Clemson with it taking kind of a similar route to try to stay competitive in a very, very difficult conference.
Yeah, so if you're a Clemson fan, go watch the Czech Republic. Yeah,
see
what your latest import has in store for you.
You got anybody else you're looking at?
I think that's it for me for now.
Is that your name?
Yes, that's my group that I'm looking forward to. I can only watch so many games, Travis.
Spain also
try and watch every one, but I'm only one man.
Spain also has some Division III talent, including Sarah Quigley, who was a player for Lycoming back in 2011, 2014. She's now their head coach, Division III. So coach turned player for the World Championships.
Yeah, interesting. I love it.
It's
really cool. It's fun.
It is such a cool event. We had a chance to really consume it back in 2017 and been a part of different World Championship events and the lead up here for Team USA. It's something really special, and having it on U.S. soil is going to be really, really fun to watch.
Yeah, I can't wait. And there's some that are new to it, like Dempsey Arsenault for Team USA, and you spoke with her just about that this week. Let's take a look at that.
So we're now joined by Dempsey Arsenault, getting ready to compete for Team USA here in the Women's World Championships. Dempsey, we were just talking about this. It feels like these World Championships have been a long time coming. What does it feel like to actually have them now right around the corner?
It's a little bit surreal. I feel like ever since I was a senior at BC in 2019, when I did my first USA weekend, I've just been dreaming of this. So the fact that I leave tomorrow afternoon to head down there is like a dream, but I'm just trying to soak it in and get ready. But I'm so excited.
You mentioned the dream. Is this something you dreamed of growing up, the opportunity to wear the red, white, and blue?
Oh my gosh, yes. This has been my number one goal ever since I was really little. My whole childhood bedroom has been covered in lacrosse posters, and I have quotes everywhere. So the fact that it's right around the corner and that it's actually happening, I'm just trying to pinch myself. I'm so, so excited.
I mean, we're up here in New England too, and New Hampshire's not a huge state. Like, what does it feel like to kind of also, on top of wearing the Team USA colors, kind of carry New Hampshire's banner forward in the lacrosse world?
It's pretty cool. I would say just to see the growth, like I was just saying, has been amazing, and to be a part of that. I started when I was in like 6th grade playing at a local team in Plymouth, New Hampshire. And now to see those little girls and talk to some of them has been really exciting and really cool. But yeah, I'm super excited for New Hampshire to continue to grow and hopefully become a hotbed.
You mentioned some of those players that you see now coming up, and Jenny Levy has spoken about this being more than just a medal. Obviously, you go there hoping to win gold, but you also want to continue to expand the sport in terms of the fan base and the little girls dreaming of being where you are at someday. But what has she spoken about in terms of trying to expand the game on top of trying to get the job done in terms of winning gold?
Yeah, that's a huge part of it. We had a training weekend down in Stony Brook a few weeks ago. And afterwards, we had to end Synagrass like kind of early. After the game, the stands were packed and we literally had to get ushered out because there were girls screaming. And just to see that growth has been incredible. And hopefully we get a lot more fans coming out to Towson too. But yeah, no, that has been such a big part of the process, getting more exposure. And it's been really cool to see like how many girls showed up even just on that training weekend. So hopefully the stands will be packed and we'll just continue to grow the game.
So I'm sure you've dreamed of this moment, and it'll probably soak in a little bit more once you get there. But put yourself in those shoes. Opening night against Canada, you're hearing the national anthem play. What do you think it's going to be like?
I don't know, because even just in the training weekend when we were playing AU, that moment of hearing the national anthem and just being in those USA jerseys was like, oh my gosh, I was just trying to soak it in. So now having it be for real against Canada, I know I'm going to have to try to stay focused because we have a job to get done, but I know it is going to be very, very cool. And all the older girls that have been there before us have tried to get us like a little glimpse of what it's like. But I know it's just going to be like life-changing.
So your midfield group, how would you describe it in the talent that you guys have in that unit?
I would say it's filled with talent, a lot of experience, but I would say we all kind of are like gritty. We like to work hard, play together, and I would say hopefully we all come in really fast and ready to get the job done.
Your group at Boston College obviously started to kind of set the tone for where that program is now, and you have one of the stars of BC that we just saw in Charlotte North on this team. You guys didn't get a chance to play together at BC. What's it going to be like to now share the field with Charlotte?
Yeah, it's been awesome getting to know her off the field, and then playing with her on the field is so cool. Those girls after the Long Island game were cheering her name, screaming. It was like just for Charlotte, but no, it's been awesome to get to know her. I'm so excited. She's such a good person, and then obviously she's amazing. Some of her goals against AU, I was just like, oh my gosh, how did I just see this live? So really excited to play with her, but yeah, she's awesome.
How cool is it to see her kind of take the banner of that program, kind of where you guys left it in terms of getting the team to championship weekend?
Oh, that's all you want as an alum, to see the program continue to grow, and she's played such a big part of that. So it's been really, really awesome to see that, and there's no better person to do it than her.
What are you most excited for with this whole experience?
Oh, that's a hard question. I would say all of it, but something that I'm really trying to focus on is like living in the moment. I'm not trying to like look too far ahead, not trying to look in the past, but trying to really be present in the moment, because I know this is going to be something I'll remember for the rest of my life.
Well, Dempsey, we can't wait to see you guys compete over the next couple of weeks. Good luck, safe travels, and hopefully we'll catch up at some point here throughout the tournament.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Dempsey's just always smiling. She's so excited to be here.
She's kind of like she is on the field, off the field. Yes. Very exuberant and just enjoying being out there, right?
Energy through the roof.
Good energy, as they say.
That's the scouting report on Dempsey Arsenault. Great energy.
It's hard to stop.
It's very hard to stop. So good luck to the rest of the world.
Yes.
Have fun with that.
Yes. Good luck, world. That's
right. Anyway, so as we mentioned, Team USA Canada kicks it off Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern time. You can watch the game on ESPN. Let's turn our attention here to finish up the show to the PLL, because they had their weekend in Baltimore at Homewood Field this past weekend. And to me, the results kind of went the way I felt they would. Like, I feel like there's kind of a clear outline of where these teams rank throughout the standings.
You really thought the chaos would get blown out like that?
No, maybe that was the one surprise.
I mean, everyone's like, all right, NLL's done.
Everybody's back.
It's going to work. Like, guys, it doesn't really work like that. That's why
there's an adjustment period.
I mean, last year, don't forget, they stunk in the regular season, and then they finally gelled together in the field game. Like, you've heard that. I mean, I think I heard Zed Williams being interviewed before the game, and he's like, yeah, like, I got to get used to some of this stuff. I'll be fine. Like, he's like, I'm good.
Haven't seen a long pole in a while.
Yeah, I think it's what he said. He's like, yeah, the poles are out here, too, so it's a little bit different out there. So I think they will figure it out, and will they do it at enough time?
Yeah, that's the big question, because we're starting to run out of time here in the year. Like, we're almost at the All-Star break.
So what did go the way you thought it would go?
All right, so we're each doing one thing here from the PLL weekend. And my big thing is that the Archers and Atlas, they are who I thought they were, both of them. Because, like, going into this game, I really was interested to see what was going to happen. Because I think you have the Archers, who are the team before that was like stacked with all this offensive talent, and coming into the PL, you're like, oh, look at it. Will Manny and Marcus Holman and Tom Schreiber, and they add these new pieces. Matt Moore was actually really good in this game, by the way, out of Virginia. And then you have the Atlas, who are the new guys. Like, they have burst onto the scene, like, welcome to the show. And the Archers didn't live up to the expectations. They didn't use the kind of veteran knowledge that they should have to beat this kind of young up-and-coming team. I mean, I went back and rewatched this game yesterday. And to only have, for the Archers, to only score 1 goal in the fourth quarter in a tight game. Like, this game was on pace to be like a track meet in the first quarter, and the Archers were held without a goal in the second, and they only scored 1 in the fourth. And a lot of it, some of it had to do with Trevor Baptiste, the faceoff X. He was dominant against Justin Inacio. And so Trevor Baptiste is, he's this year showing, like, he looks like he's in some of the best shape we've seen him in his career. He is locked in.
I mean, is he the leading MVP candidate right
He might be.
Like,
I mean,
he be
how good he's been?
The Greg Gorenlian. Like, this could be a season like that.
It could. He's been that good.
Yeah.
I mean, to go, I think it was 18-22 or 19-22 he went in this game. Like, he was unbelievable.
Yeah.
So that's a difference maker, and that's something to point to if you're the Archers offense. But it's not like they didn't have opportunities. They had some sloppy possessions in that fourth quarter down the stretch in a 1- and 2-goal game that are things that, like, if you're a veteran team like they are and the pieces that they have offensively, just shouldn't happen. And I do have to give some credit. At first, I was like, what are the Archers doing? And then I was really breaking down what was happening. And you got to give a lot of credit to this defense for the Atlas, because between Cade Van Raphorst and Tucker Durkin and I talked about this defensive midfield unit before the season even started. They are really good at that end of the floor. At that end of the field. Jack Kincannon's playing well in goal. He stopped, I think, 55% in this game. And so while the Archers offense to me was disappointing, especially how they started, I got to give a lot of credit to that Atlas defense for the way that they stepped up, because the offense is getting a lot of praise, as they should, with Jeff Teat and company. But that defense really frustrated the Archers. And you could tell, and you were listening in on some of the huddles there in the ESPN broadcast with the Archers offense, they were really frustrated. Like Schreiber, Holman, they thought they were trying to figure stuff out, but like it wasn't working. Well, and so I was really impressed by the Atlas in this game.
Atlas deserve a lot of credit. But I mean, anytime the Archers don't score, multiple goals, like a bunch of goals in a game,
don't get to double digits.
Right, don't get to double digits. That's kind of what I was getting at. I feel like I should be surprised, even though it's happened several times. I wonder if, the Archers, a lot of their guys are kind of known entities. You have a good idea of who does what. And yeah. I think that for this league, when you have a defense led by a Tucker Durkin, they know what you're going to do. So the Archers offense, and I think this might be down to the core of their problem, just lacks creativity. You're not putting...
It's predictable?
Yeah, it's very predictable in that. And I think that now, and it should never have been this way, but the lack of Grant Ament in that fold, I think, plays a big factor, because he is a newer, more creative player that can help those other veterans maybe blossom a lot more in a different, in a kind of an inverse way, right? Because normally it's the other way around.
Yeah.
It feels like Ament, if he can be healthy, he's been on the injury report as questionable in the last couple of weeks, but if he can get healthy, I think he can be a catalyst for that offense that does take them out of some of their patterns, which they're great players. I think everybody knows what they do at this point.
Yeah, and like Tom Schreiber scored a goal late in this game. He scored the last goal for the Archers that made it a 1-goal game. And Quint said it on the broadcast. He's like, where's that been?
Yeah.
Because he just did exactly what you would think he would do. He beat his man, went across the middle, hit that little sidearm shot, and he beat the goalie. And it's like, okay, well, if you can get that now with 3 minutes to go, where has it been? And there's too much of that. There's too much. We saw it in week 1 up in Albany with the Archers when they scored a couple of goals late to make it interesting, but they still lost. It's too little too late. They get these plays at the end, and you go, all right, well, why couldn't we do that 7 minutes ago?
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is.
I just think there needs to be some changes made. I'll tell you that. It's not all on Grant Ament. I can tell you that right now. So you talk about the Atlas, and they deserve a lot of credit as well for the way they were able to defend the Archers and whatnot. And you've got Atlas Chrome this Friday.
It's a good game.
The top 2 teams in the league, and maybe the next great rivalry.
Well, outside the Whips.
Outside the Whip Snakes could be the next great rivalry in this league, next to the Whip Snakes and Redwoods, after those two have really battled over the course of their histories together. The Chrome winning 12-11 over the Cannons. Had to come back to do it. So they win again. And, this one took some mettle for them, and it was a little bit of different of a victory as well. And they did it. And my kind of theme is that they've done this, the Chrome, than this game without big days from Wisnauskas or Malloy. And those have been two big parts. It shows you that they're more than just that core of guys like Nick Turn and Wisnauskas, the way we've seen that combination work. So it's about the other guys, not just those couple that we've talked about, the rookies for them. As in that game, Justin Anderson, 2 goals and an assist, and he has been so consistent, and I love the consistency. Last year, 4 goals in 9 games. This year, 8 goals, 2 assists thus far, just through 4 games in. And don't forget what he did as a senior. I was looking back at his numbers at North Carolina. His senior year, 25 goals, 6 assists, 20 ground balls, and 10 caused turnovers. So you know the rest of those stats are going to come too.
I mean, why do you think North Carolina struggled so much this year? They didn't have a midfield like they did last year.
Like, you almost forgot like how impactful he was in that midfield.
Their midfield was great.
I mean, he had 5 goals against the Water Dogs a couple weeks before, so he's been a big difference maker for them. And like I said, I mean, Nick Turn had a goal and 4 assists on this day. Obviously, he didn't score as much, but he facilitated everybody else. I just think their secondary and tertiary pieces make a big difference for them, and have been, obviously, with Nick Turn being kind of that vocal leader for them, Wisnauskas doing what he does as the Tewaaraton winner. I like their makeup and their depth right now. Really impressive. That's why they beat the Cannons more than anything else.
Yeah, and I think this game, the game coming up here this week with the Chrome and the Atlas tells us a lot, because looking at how, and this is what I meant kind of like how this weekend played out, how I thought it would, is like now it feels like there's a pretty clear hierarchy if you're doing power rankings for the league. It's like the Whipsnakes, no matter what, they just keep finding ways to win. So until
and they beat the Atlas, you're right. I messed.
So until they start losing, like they're number 1. I think it's pretty clear that the Atlas or Chrome are probably right there in the 2 spot, depending what happens this week. And then I think it's pretty clear that like the Archers are behind all of them.
Yeah.
And there's no question that like with the chaos with the reinforcements that they have coming back may jump some of those teams. So if you're a team like the Archers, all of a sudden you're looking at it and you're like, well, with what we've done on the field, maybe we're only like the 5th best team in the league.
Yeah.
With all that talent, it's hard to think, but like that's the reality.
Right. And like you said, we're almost to the All-Star break.
Coming up in a couple of weeks.
If you don't turn the dial pretty soon, it's done. And yeah, that's what, 7 out of the 8 teams make the playoffs, something like that.
Yeah.
But you don't want to get the matchup in the first round against a team like the Whipsnakes, who kind of been there and done that at this point. I know it's been a very short period of this league.
They just don't lose the regular season.
But they play very well together, and now they got Zed Williams back. So I think the Whipsnakes are in good shape too.
So this week, Minneapolis, Minnesota, the spot. Friday and Saturday games in the PLL.
The home of the Wolves, right? The Timberwolves.
Timberwolves do play.
The home of the Timberwolves, yeah. The home of the.
They're playing at the Vikings.
Wilds, yeah.
Playing at the Vikings practice facility, which is like kind of like the Cowboys one, a big stadium.
Yeah.
But yeah, also home of the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yeah, I don't know.
Patrick Beverly going to be in attendance in these games?
He's called Pat
Bev.
Pat Bev, I believe.
Maybe Carl Anthony Towns.
Cats,
Can we
yes.
get Cat at the
maybe Kirk
PLL?
Cousins? Maybe Kirk Cousins.
Man.
Kirk Cousins has got to be a lacrosse guy.
I mean,
Come on.
You get him a PLL camo hat, I feel like he may show up.
He might be there. He very well might be there.
We're going to have to watch to find out. We'll keep our eyes on those games.
Okay. Sure we will. Yeah.
Anyway, we'll talk about those games next Tuesday when Lacrosse Now returns. Also, make sure you stay locked into the social media accounts for Lax Sports Net and for us, because we're going to do Women's World Championship shows throughout the next week and a half. So after Team USA games, the next day we'll have a whole probably around 30-minute show breaking down some of the things that have happened. We'll have a bunch of guests to break down the games. We're going to get some insight and some inside looks from different teams around the tournament, have them take over some stuff for us. So make sure you stay locked in for more content from the Women's World Championship.
Yeah, I mean, watching the games is great, but we want to make sure we give you some of the context behind some things, make sure the meaning is given with some of the analysts and people that we have that are going to come on and be able to really break it down for us and everybody else to really give this what it deserves. And that's this platform, and a great one at that, for what's going to be a great competition.
First one coming up Thursday, the 30th. Thursday, June 30th.
The last day
of
June.
Yes. So.
Ooh,
oh, I do apparently.
A couple.
It's apparently for this.
Put that in your watch.
Thank you to Siri
Make it one of your
for
appointments on Thursday.
And we will see you then.